God bless you. Love to everybody out there. It's good to be with you, and may God bless you. Thank you for your love and your encouragement. And today is a day of my birthday. It's my birthday. I am 56 years old. I'm still plodding on. So God bless you, and thank you for your prayers and your support to me and my wife. So I really appreciate it. We're not going to be long on this show because I've got a sermon for the after this show, and we're going to be looking at Ephesians. So I put a link to Charles Darwin's archive if anybody wants to do any studying of scholarship, and I'm afraid I can't go into his life as deep as I'd like to tonight. I am extremely tired. I've been doing uh, non-stop podcasting and other things as well, and I've got a lot of studying to do for sermons, for like 5 sermons to do for tomorrow and for Sunday. So I don't want to be too long tonight. I want to get to bed early, and I want to thank everybody for coming on the show tonight. If you do come and watch what I'm doing, so um, let us link up with this. So Charles Darwin, if you see the statue here, you can see that whether you agree with Charles Darwin or not, he had a big impact on society. His idea of evolution had a huge impact. Okay. And so we need to just think about him and what his contribution was and how do we respond as a Christian. Charles Darwin's history's most famous biologist. Charles Robert Darwin, 1809 to 1882, transformed the way we understand the natural world with ideas that in his day were nothing short of revolutionary. He and his fellow pioneers in the field of biology gave us insight into the fantastic diversity of life on Earth and its origin, including our own species. Charles Darwin is celebrated as one of the greatest British scientists to ever live, but in his time, his radical theories brought him into conflict with members of the Church of England. It's interesting, his idea of natural selection, his idea of evolution, he never really proved it, and yet it was accepted. And the reason why it was accepted, it wasn't accepted because of the science. There was bubbling within the universities and the academic world a hyper-skepticism about Christianity. So when he started to write his books, the skeptics jumped on his ideas and they pushed it within the church and in society. So it wasn't just based on science, it was based on ultimately skepticism around that time. Young Charles Darwin, born in 1809 in Shrewsbury, Shropshire, Darwin was fascinated by the natural world from a young age. Growing up, he was an avid reader of nature books and devoted his spare time to exploring the fields and woodlands around his home, collecting plants and insects. In 1825, Darwin enrolled in medical school at the University of Edinburgh, where he witnessed surgery on a child. Surgeries at the time would have been carried out without the use of anaesthetic or antiseptic, and fatalities were common. Watching this procedure left Darwin so traumatized that he gave up his studies without completing the course. During his time in Edinburgh, Darwin also paid for lessons in taxidermy from John Edmondson, a former enslaved man from Guyana. The skills Edmondson taught Darwin became crucial just a few years further into his career. After his time in Scotland, Darwin went to Cambridge University to study theology. So right off the bat, we learn that Charles Darwin was a very squeamish, a very sensitive man. And I think this led to his becoming an agnostic of some kind, because suffering in life made him think, then where is there a God? So it was that hypersensitive nature that he had that led him, rather than moving towards God, but moving away to God, away from God. The voyage of HMS Beagle. In no rush to take holy orders, so he's done theology. So he was thinking of going into the ministry, but he's more interested in his biology. So that's telling me that he was never really serious about his theology. In no rush to take holy orders, in 1831, Darwin accepted an offer to embark on a 5-year voyage abroad in the HMS Beagle. So there's the ship. He was recommended by one of his Cambridge professors for the role as a naturalist and companion to the ship's captain, Robert Fitzroy. The journey would change both his life and the trajectory of Western scientific thinking. Darwin explored remote regions and marveled at a world so different from the one he knew. He encountered birds with bright blue beaks, big blue feet, sharks with T-shaped heads, and giant tortoises. On his travels, Darwin collected plants, animals, fossils, and took copious field notes. These collections and records provided the evidence he needed to develop his remarkable theory. The shells in this specimen drawer were collected by Charles Darwin during the voyages of his HMS Beagle. Darwin returned to England in 1836, a highly methodical scholar, constantly collecting and observing. He spent many years comparing, analyzing specimens before finally declaring that evolution occurs by a process of natural selection. What is the theory of natural selection? To this day, the theory of evolution by natural selection is accepted by the scientific community as the best evidence-based explanation for the diversity and complexity of life on Earth. The theory proposed that the fittest individual organisms, those with the characteristics best suited to their environment, are most likely to survive and reproduce. They pass on these desirable characteristics to their offspring. Gradually, these features may become more common in a population. So species change over time. If the changes are great enough, they could produce new species altogether. So that bit's a logical leap. He never was able to produce the evidence for that, and nobody has. Nobody's been able to produce natural selection as evidence that it can produce new species. It's never been done. So it's an assumption. Yes, microevolution, yeah, not macroevolution. Microevolution, little changes, yeah, but not big changes. He never proved that. Never proved it one bit. It was an assumption. So notice here how you're in a highly prestigious natural history museum. And notice how it's a switch and bait. They talk about evolution is scientifically verifiable and true. And we would agree. Microevolution is. No problem. But macroevolution, that's not been proven. On his travels, Charles Darwin had collected finches from many of the Galapagos Islands of the coast of Ecuador, which helped him to formulate his ideas. Yeah, but if you go to the island of Galapagos today, guess what? Finches are still finches, they've not changed. Some of these finches had stout beaks for eating seeds, others were insect specialists, but Darwin realized that they were all descendants of a single ancestor. As they dispersed to different islands, the birds had adapted to eat the various foods available. Natural selection had produced 13 different species of finch. Darwin's pigeons. From his travels on HMS Beagle, Darwin suspected that environment might naturally manipulate species, causing them to change over time. But he couldn't find a means to explore this effectively in the wild. Experimenting with artificial selection in pigeons gave him a way to study how far a species could change. By artificially selecting features crossing birds with particular characteristics to generate different offspring, he gathered valuable evidence for evolution by natural selection. To illustrate his theory, Darwin bred the birds to have extravagant features. But again, they're still birds. They've not changed into new species. So it's always a logical leap with these evolutionists. Originally, a line drawing of an English pouter pigeon from the book Variation in Animals and Plants under Domestication by Charles Darwin. The similarity between artificial selection and natural selection is at the heart of his explanation of evolution in his evolutionary book on the origins of species. After completing the experiments, he gave all 120 of his pigeon specimens to the museum. They are currently part of our bird collection kept at Tring, Herefordshire. A shared discovery. Darwin knew his radical ideas would be met with stiff opposition. Even after 20 years of his research, he worried about how his theory of evolution would be received, as it challenged widely held religious beliefs at the time. He delayed publishing on the topic for a great number of years while he assembled a mountain of evidence. And when he learned that young naturalist Alfred Russel Wallace had developed similar ideas, Darwin volunteered to send Wallace's ideas to a journal for immediate publication. On advice from friends, the two scientists organized a joint announcement. The theory of evolution by natural selection was presented at the Linnean Society in London. Both had studied the natural world extensively and made a number of observations that were critical to the development of the theory. The following year, Darwin published a contentious but now celebrated book on the origins of species. On the origin of species in 1859, published in 1859 on the origin of species provoked outrage from some members of the Church of England, as it implicitly contradicted the belief in divine creation. Despite accusations of blasphemy, the book quickly became a bestseller. Great Apes, The Descendant of Man, a selection in relation to sex, which Darwin published in 1871, fueled even greater debates as to suggest that humans descended from apes. The Bishop of Oxford famously asked Thomas Huxley, one of Darwin's most enthusiastic supporters, whether it was through his grandfather or grandmother that he claimed descent from a monkey. Despite the attacks, Darwin's conviction in the scientific explanation that the best fit the available evidence remained unshaken. And he was keen for his ideas to reach as many people as possible and for his books to be read in many different languages. Part of his success has been attributed to his conversational and approachable writing style. On the Origin of Species was so influential that within a year it had been published in German. In Darwin's lifetime, his book was translated in German, Danish, Dutch, French, Hungarian, Italian, Polish, Russian, Serbian, Spanish, and Swedish. Our library has 478 editions of The Origin of Species in 38 languages and in Braille. Darwin and the Tree of Life. Charles Darwin used the concept of a tree of life in the context of a theory of evolution to illustrate that all species on Earth are related and evolved from a common ancestor. Darwin's first sketch of the tree of life, found in one of the notebooks in 1837. Tips of the branches show the species that are still alive today. The tree shows those that are now extinct. From the first growth of the tree, many limbs and branches has decayed and dropped off, and these fallen branches of various sizes may represent the whole order. Families and genera have now no living representative, which are known to us only in fossil state. The lines on the tree show evolutionary relationship between species. For example, a recent version of the tree would show a line between some types of dinosaurs and the earliest birds, as scientists reason that birds evolved from a particular lineage of dinosaur. This means that species that are closely related are found close together, stemming from the same branch. So that's a little bit about Charles Darwin. Yeah. No, I won't, Jeffrey. I'll be preaching in about 20 minutes. I think I'll be preaching the word. Maybe if I finish. All right. Solomon. Study Bible, Holman, Thomas Nessel. King James Study Bible, I'm sure it's a good one. The Reformation Study Bible is very, very good. Yeah. Good, yeah. Well done. Don't forget to check out Africa Without Borders, and don't forget to check here. There. What do we learn from all this from Charles Darwin? Well, it is true that, the environment can affect the way birds change or different animals change. But what we learn is how deceptive the devil can be. Because just because we see little changes in a bird doesn't give us the mechanism to show us that can create new species. That was never proved. It never has been proved. So it's sad that many people in his day began to leave Christianity because of this idea that was never proven in the context of big changes. No one can deny small changes, but big changes, we can deny that very easily because it's never been observed or proven. So that's a little bit about Charles Darwin. I will do a biography book on him one day, but for now, that's what we'll do. So I'm going to leave this stream and start a new stream and preach on Ephesians chapter 1. So may God bless you all, and thank you for coming. Thank you, Solomon. Thank you, Jeffrey. God bless you.